Ah, greetings, B-movie aficionados.
Hello and welcome to A Couple of Flicks. I am Tristan.
I am Nick.
And I'm Zach.
And this is when we talk about science fiction. So we're going to give our top 5 favorite science fiction films. And then afterward, should I just say, like, basically we're going to afterward talk about Star Wars.
Yeah.
And specifically the new one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
A little late to the game, but you know.
yeah. I mean,
it's
better late than never.
It needs to be talked about, I feel, and
I think it's important.
fits in with this episode too. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's the sci-fi episode. So anyway, so yeah. So let's. Do you want to go start first?
Sure.
All right.
Well, I would have put Interstellar up there, but I talked about it earlier on a different list, so
Yeah.
just that'll be an honorable mention, I guess. But
Okay.
I'll do Edge of Tomorrow for my number 5.
Excellent.
I loved that movie. It was so much fun, and I love
did
Tom
too.
Cruise too.
Yeah.
So
Hold on just a sec.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, just the idea of it was neat. And yeah, Guy Live Die Repeat was the original title of it.
Yeah, which
But didn't sell to marketing, I guess.
yeah.
And then they changed it when it came out on DVD and stuff.
Yeah, I think
Confused everybody.
I think it was like a special cut that came out with that name or something, maybe.
That's what I thought too, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a good movie. I saw it not too long ago on I don't know, just on TV, and I watched it the whole way through, and I was like, yeah, this movie's fun. I do love Tom Cruise, even though he's crazy as shit, but like, he's a good actor for sure.
Yeah.
And I like that it's a creative science fiction that has a unique gimmick to it,
Yeah.
and yeah, explored fairly well. I'm sure there's plot points if I had to think of it, or plot holes. If I had to think of it, but it's fun.
Yeah. I loved it.
Yep.
I would watch it again for sure, and I probably will, because, like, I don't know, when it comes to Tom Cruise action movies and stuff, I mean, I'm not crazy about all of them, but there are some that I want to re-explore, and like some of his like dramas I want to re-explore as well. Like I haven't seen Vanilla Sky for a while, and there's a couple others, and that I want to rewatch as well. And I think this will kind of get lumped in with those. Like I'm gonna probably rewatch this one pretty soon. So.
Oh, it's definitely a good one to rewatch.
Yeah. Did you see that one?
Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
When I first saw it, I was like, I don't know. But it was really good.
I think the marketing killed that movie, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. All right. My number 5 pick, Mad Max Fury Road. It might be on one of yours, but I had to put it on something because I really love that movie, and I can't think of a film like that I've seen in the theater. I can't think of too many anyway that I saw in the theater that was like that kind of experience. That was just so visceral and perfect.
It was wild. It was so good.
Yeah, I just loved it, and it was like sensory overload, but it was really like done well. You know, it was like the best kind of sensory overload.
Yeah.
The acting was actually like pretty incredible action, like which of course you have somebody like Charlize Theron, somebody as talented as her, of course the acting is going to be, you know, outstanding, and it just, everything about it I loved.
Yeah, I always love practical effects too.
Yeah,
that was mostly.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, great film.
My number 5 is Attack the Block.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I skipped out on that one.
It's
I don't know why, but which
pretty
one is
good.
that?
It's John Boyega before Star Wars.
Yeah.
An alien invasion movie where they basically just try to get them getting to another location, avoiding aliens, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it basically these aliens wind up in sort of like a young hoodlum like area. Like there's a lot of like young people committing crimes, like hoodlums
Right.
basically. And it's basically like it's an alien invasion movie where they have to duke it out with the aliens and evade them and all that stuff. It kind of also reminded me a little bit of like the Warriors and like just films like that have that kind of atmosphere, like Streets of Fire and stuff, which is just kind of like out in on the streets and in crowded apartment buildings and just I love that. Judgment Night is another one that kind of has atmosphere like that. But yeah, Attack the Block is amazing. I love that movie, and I wanna watch it again because yeah, I haven't seen it since I first watched it, and I absolutely adored it. And I love that actor too, and I was glad that he got in he got into Star Wars, he was likable in that movie. Yeah, he played a good kind of main character. So the opening scene of that movie is kind of intense though. When where they kind of rob that woman.
Yeah.
Like so so some people who may have experienced something like that or have lived in the city, like I would imagine some people probably wouldn't be too into the way that film opens, if they've ever experienced that kind of thing. But beyond that, I mean, I would recommend it to just about everyone. I mean, is it my turn or is it your turn?
Did I go first? I'll go.
Yeah.
All right, then. Yeah, number 4. I'll do Arrival.
Oh,
And I mean, I would maybe put it higher, but I just haven't seen it since it came. I saw it in theaters, and it was really good, of course. Like it got all the critical acclaim, and well deserved.
Mm.
But I also haven't seen it enough to really solidify it. If it is, might could go higher. So that's the only reason why it's number 4. But it's definitely in the list of at least recently good sci-fis I've seen.
I loved Arrival.
Yeah, and super it's an alien invasion that's somewhat realistic-ish, not like Independence Day or shit. There's no huge action in it at all, except for 1 or 2 scenes.
Yeah,
and
it's actually pretty intense though.
Yeah, yep, definitely. Yeah. No, I just like the idea of them trying, the whole conceit of it is them just trying to communicate, which would probably be the first things logical, sensible people would want to try and do instead of blow them the fuck up.
Yeah.
Because they're aliens.
Yeah.
We don't know if they came to Earth. There's probably on good authority, you can imagine they could just decimate us if they made it all the way here in those fucking crazy ships.
It's safe to assume.
Why would we even try anything?
Yeah. This is more along the lines of something like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or maybe even something like Stalker. It's a Russian film from the late 70s, early 80s, which I would consider a science fiction film that I really love. But it's more of a thinking person's science fiction film.
Yeah,
it's not about the action.
That's what I like a lot. Too.
Yeah.
Sci-fis are the thinking person, not the action ones.
Yeah, agreed. Arrival that's one of the best science fiction films I've seen in a long time. That and Mad Max Fury Road are my 2 favorites of this decade as far as science fiction.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And I almost put Arrival on this list, but at the last minute I went with Mad Max Fury Road. But I was honestly thinking about putting this at number 5, and I don't know, maybe it's a tie. It's hard to say, but Arrival was amazing.
Yeah.
My number 4 pick is a bit of a weird one. It's it's called Dark Star. And it's John Carpenter, or it's one of John Carpenter's first films. It might have been a thesis or a student film. I'm not sure, but and and it was written by Dan O'Bannon, who also wrote Alien, and so he did Dark Star before he did Halloween, and Dan O'Bannon did Dark Star before he did Alien, and so it's a really low budget film. It's pretty cheap, but I find it very interesting. The way the characters talk in that movie, I find really fascinating. I know that's like a weird way to compliment a movie, but like I love the way the characters in that movie talk, and then the effects are like you can tell that like they didn't really have a budget, so they had to work with their sort of ingenuity. So, and it makes for some really interesting effects. Like there's an alien in this movie that it's essentially a beach ball, but like I don't know, somehow the way the film is shot and edited though, and like the music and just the design of it makes something like that suspenseful, even though like a lot of people would find that kind of ridiculous, like that's a cheap effect, and so basically the film, it's about these guys who are out in space, and basically their job is to destroy unstable planets, so they're going around doing that, and they have a bomb that at one point in this movie it goes sentient, and it basically begins to question its own existence. And so it's a strange movie. It's one of those really isolated type of feeling films, like 2001: A Space Odyssey or something like that is kind of cold and distant, but I feel like there's so much heart and personality and visual stuff going on in it that I just love that movie, and it's my favorite film of John Carpenter's because it just feels so uniquely him. It has everything about him that makes him like a good filmmaker. Just it has a distinct feel, the design of it, like the tone, the atmosphere, the odd way he films his characters, his actors. I love that movie, Dark Star, and the effects like I said, they're pretty cheap, but they're very imaginative.
I have to add that one to the list.
Yeah, that might be an interesting one to do on the show sometime. I don't know. I'd have to think about it because it's a 70s movie. So, but I love it though. I mean,
all right. My number 4 is District 9.
Nice.
Yeah,
It is a good one.
agreed. It was like it was almost like an early Peter Jackson movie, but done like with a budget. Like it had sort of that same kind of humor, and District 9 was great.
Yeah, I did like that a lot when I saw it. I only saw it like once in theaters, but it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then around that time, I wasn't really many good sci-fi movies, at least to me, around that time, and that one was just really good.
Yeah.
I like that one more than Avatar,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that came out the same year.
Did it?
I'm pretty sure, or either the same year or like it's soon after. I don't know, maybe before. I don't remember, but yeah, no, that was great, and I feel like that movie, people aren't really talking about it as much. Like, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I think it got a pretty big pop when it came out. If I remember correctly. But...
Yeah, when it came out, everybody saw it, you know. But well, not everybody, but a lot of people like were talking it up and were hyping it, and I saw it kind of. I basically saw it at the same time everybody else did, so it didn't really get overhyped. I could imagine some people kind of thinking of it as being overhyped if they.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
When it first came out, for sure. But it's definitely a solid.
Yeah. Sci-fi. I like that one a lot.
Yeah. My number 3. I just remembered another one. So. But for number 3, I'm gonna do Ex Machina. I love that movie. It was so good.
Yeah, that was a great film.
Yeah. Just so good. I don't know what else. It's hard to say much more about that one.
It felt like a movie that just it needed to come out. Like it's the type of movie that we kind of all have sort of speculated about existing, movie
Because
that's
it's coming up close, right?
Yeah.
And we're all like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, like you have so many films about the future of robotics and technology, and you have movies like Her, which explore that in kind of a positive way. But then you have a movie like Ex Machina, which kind of explores it in a much more like nuanced human type of way that I'd love to see. I mean, that like it was kind of, for me, as far as like effects and visuals go, Ex Machina, like that was kind of revolutionary to me. I thought,
it was baller.
like
Neil Clark, she was the one that was the robot.
I think so, yeah.
Dragon lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I haven't been wowed by effects like that
That
since.
was incredible. Like it looked like a real robot with her face on it. I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, shit! How do you do that?
I haven't been wowed by effects like that since The Matrix. I mean, that I really loved the effects in this movie, and that's why I think I was, especially disappointed by. And I think I talked about this before, but like Alex Garland, he directed that Annihilation movie that some people I know really loved it.
I wanted to see it bad, but then I heard it wasn't good. So
Yeah, I do
know
know some people who really loved it, but the effects in that were so disappointing to me though. And
that made for Netflix though?
Oh, maybe it was. I don't
I
know.
could see it but that's the thing. There was like an indie movie, right? Ex Machina was.
Yeah.
That had great effects. So I don't understand if it was a Netflix, because I think it was a Netflix movie.
You might be right.
Why wouldn't they do good effects?
Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, regardless, Annihilation. Some people like it. I'm not gonna bash it, but Ex Machina I really love though.
Yeah, and I like the smaller films that are just like take place in like one room-ish kind of too. I always appreciate that stuff.
Yeah.
Where this was just like 3 characters in a
nice
little mansion.
Yeah.
And then and I loved the robot too. Just like the end of her not giving a fuck.
Yeah, I like that.
That's exactly what the robot has no emotion. Robots have no emotion. Where she was just trying to get out from point A to point B any way she could. She was like, "Oh, this guy is manipulatable, whatever it is to be manipulative."
Manipulative. Yeah, I think that's what.
She was manipulative, but she knew he was an easy mark.
Yeah,
played him
for sure. But yeah, I like what you say about like the small, like it takes place in one location, and I like a lot of those kinds of movies too. Like the dialogue driven one, like Cube was kind of like that as well, and there were some others. But yeah, this one definitely fits kind of along the same lines.
And Oscar Isaac was in it.
His
performance is amazing.
Great performance.
The dance scene is always talked about. It's so fucking sweet.
There's a reason it's talked about. I mean,
so
it's the
good.
best scene.
I want to
learn
that dance scene too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Love that movie. Ex Machina.
Yep.
What was my number 3? Oh, my number 3 pick is Dark Star was my favorite film of John Carpenter's, and my favorite film of Steven Spielberg's is AI, Artificial Intelligence, and I'm choosing that for my number 3.
That's your favorite Spielberg film?
Yes.
Huh.
I've thought about it, and my favorite Spielberg films, aside from Duel, Lincoln, and Jurassic Park, this one is like if I were to choose like 4 favorite Spielberg films, those would be my 4, and this would be among those 4.
So wait, is AI the one with Robin Williams?
Well, Robin Williams is in one scene, but I think you might be thinking of Bicentennial Man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it came out kind of I think around the same time.
Okay.
So,
and what was the kid? Haley Joel Osment?
Haley Joel Osment.
He was in
yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, he was in AI.
Oh okay. So that I saw AI then.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know not everybody likes this movie, and I get why, because it is really slow and depressing, and there's
I saw it as a kid and I didn't like it.
Yeah, I believe it. I know a lot of kids who actually at the time who saw it and didn't like. I guess a lot of people thought this was a family movie.
I did.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of marketed. So it's Steven Spielberg,
Exactly.
robot,
Yeah.
Haley Joel Osment.
The trailer made it look like a family movie. I mean, it made it look very fantastical. AI, Steven Spielberg,
Yeah.
like science fiction robots, all this stuff. It was like, oh, this is going to be a great movie to take, the family to. It's like you should have gone with Shrek.
Yeah, there was a part that when I saw it as a kid creeped me out, like when his eye drooped. I remember
yeah.
that creeped me the fuck
Yeah, I
out
do
when I was a
remember
kid.
being
Yeah.
creeped out by the movie too
There
when
was
I was a kid.
there was honestly a lot of
Weirded
very
out.
disturbing content in this movie. There's this sequence that takes place at a carnival where these people are torturing and killing robots, and the way they're shot, and the way like the scene unfolds, it's very reminiscent of the way Steven Spielberg kind of dealt with the subject matter in movies like Empire of the Sun and Schindler's List. It's really, really serious and heavy. And so like there's stuff like that in it that it's impossible to like stuff like that. But just because there's things about a movie I don't like doesn't mean that I don't love the movie. And
Right.
for me, this movie was very, very moving to me. It was about the idea of an AI and whether or not, because it's not real emotion, it's not real, it's all pre-programmed, and that's kind of what the movie Blade Runner was sort of exploring. But this was about, a mother and child situation, which is a idea that's even more personal and means a lot more to people, I think, in a lot of ways. And so it's an uncomfortable movie to watch, but at the same time, it's another movie that asks challenging questions of the viewer, And I appreciate science fiction that does that. I think the best kinds of science fiction films are the type that challenge people. So,
Definitely.
and I love this movie.
Yeah.
So that's my number third
I'm
pick.
gonna have to rewatch it as an adult then. 'Cause I
Yeah,
definitely didn't like it as a kid.
yeah. It's very slow paced. You
Yeah.
know, it's very slow. It takes its time. It's very like emotion driven. It's very character driven. But the characters are androids, so it's kind of there's that difficulty. And then the ending, a lot of people don't like as well. I found the ending really tragic, but other people felt that it was like a Hollywood style ending. And what's interesting about this movie, and I don't want to go too far into detail about this, but it was a concept by Stanley Kubrick. And initially what he did was he wanted to produce it and have Steven Spielberg direct it. And the ending and a lot of the stuff that a lot of people thought were Steven Spielberg's ideas, the whole sentimental concepts of like people like getting what they want and all that stuff, which not all of Steven Spielberg's movies are like that, but whatever. Anyway, a lot of people felt like that was a Spielberg idea, and it was actually Kubrick's idea to end the
Shit.
movie the way it does,
I
which,
didn't even know that.
yeah, and I don't know if you remember the ending very well, but it's one of those
No, not at
bittersweet
all.
kind of endings.
I
Yeah,
was real young when I saw it.
yeah. A lot of people think of it as a happy ending. I think it's like one of the most tragic, most depressing endings in film history, but that's just me. Yeah, AI, it's worth rewatching. I think it's aging in a very interesting way. So,
Okay.
Gonna have to rewatch that one too now.
yeah.
My number 3 is E.T.
Oh, nice.
Speaking of
Classic.
Spielberg.
Oh, nice.
Classic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, do you want to talk more about why? Or?
It's a classic movie. I grew up watching it all the time. Still have the VHS somewhere.
With the green.
Yeah.
Sorry, I always have to mention that.
Yeah. The green strip.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then, of course, the E.T. ride at Universal Studios.
Oh, yeah. That sounds so good. I've never been to Universal Studios, but I would imagine that'd be pretty fun. Yeah. When was the last time you watched E.T.?
Kid. When I was a kid.
Yeah.
VHS, yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, I enjoyed it, but I wasn't like, oh, I love E.T. But I liked it.
I was kind
I've
of
only seen it like once when I was a kid, yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of a sensitive kid, so and it's funny because I watched so many action movies and stuff growing up, but none of it really meant anything to me. It's just people getting shot or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, who cares? I don't know who they are. But family movies growing up, like that was about things that I could relate to. And so this movie, I didn't really like it when I was a kid, just because I was so disturbed by the scene where they find him and he's getting picked apart by the badgers or whatever, or the raccoons. Like
Yeah.
that sight, like it was branded on my brain. I had nightmares about that image, but growing up, I've kind of come to appreciate it more. I think the other thing is that when I was a kid, I didn't really understand the ending very much when the alien, when E.T. gets brought back to life. I didn't realize how that happened. And now as an adult, I get that it's like more of like a spiritual, like, oh, it's because of the kid's love for this alien creature that brought him back. Like now I get that. But when I was a kid, I kind of had trouble understanding those kinds of emotions. So it didn't really resonate with me back then. But now I find it very moving. And I do like E.T. a lot. So, but I totally get like not liking it as a kid though. So
Yeah. I mean, I liked it as a kid. I just
Right.
wasn't like obsessed with it. Like,
yeah,
you know,
like
a
not
lot of
something
kids
you'd want to
those
rewatch
days.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm switching up my 1 and 2. I'm going 2 is Children of Men.
Children of Men is a great film.
Mm-hmm. It was my number 1, but I switched it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so good. It's just awesomely shot too. Like, isn't Cuarón? Who's the director?
It was Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's awesome.
And he did Gravity and Y Tu Mama Tambien and Roma.
Mm,
And yeah, he's a good filmmaker. But
yeah, I'm just like, it's just so cool.
yeah,
It's just so cool.
it's very well made.
Yeah, and it's an interesting world, you know,
Yeah.
to dive into of people stop having babies. The youngest guy's like 21 or something.
And he dies at the beginning of the
Yeah.
movie.
There's like a huge, you can tell there's a deep world in this, and it's, you only get to see the surface of it, really. Like,
Yeah.
just the one mission that, you know, he's on, the main character.
Yeah.
But you can tell there's a lot of political shit going on behind the scenes, and there's that we don't need to know, but you know,
It definitely exists.
yeah,
I mean, it's such a bleak movie, but it has such a hopeful message ultimately.
Mhm.
The ending is really poetic.
yeah.
The whole sequence of events that occurs, like building up to it,
So,
the way the situation just explodes from
Yeah.
one scene to another, and
really
how
well paced.
and how intimate it feels.
Yep.
Like you feel like you're there.
Oh yeah, it's like just shot so well. Like I love long shots, and that one in the car,
Yeah,
that was so cool.
that was
It was like one of my favorite scenes in any movie ever.
yeah.
Just
That
because,
was
like, and then you see like the behind the scenes of how it was filmed and shit.
yeah,
Like there were like a riggings in the car, and like
yeah.
they were doing that. They had to do that. They were, you know, fucking around in the beginning with that ping pong ball, catching it back and forth. You
Yeah.
wonder how many times it took them to do that alone.
That was great. Yeah. I saw this in the theater. I think I might have seen it with both of you guys.
I saw it in the theaters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the scene what happens with Michael Caine's character, like that made me cry in the theater. That was very emotional for me.
Was he the hippie one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was emotional. He was a badass too. He was
Yeah.
a guy. He was growing weed, right? out
Yeah.
there? Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, he's very likable as a character,
Yeah.
like right from the get-go. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
what ends up transpiring is really
shitty. Yeah.
Yeah. And
being
then
being a good guy, saving, you know.
and it was also interesting to see Anna Faris, like, or I think that's or Pam Ferris, not Anna Faris, Pam Ferris, who played the Trunchbull and Matilda, play the yeah. She was in this movie. She played like that woman that was with them, who, like, when they're on the bus, she's the one who ends up kind of sacrificing herself to
okay.
kind of help them escape. And,
Yep.
Yeah, it was interesting to see her in a movie that wasn't Matilda.
And there was that, just the whole kind of thing about it was like, this is a huge war-torn kind of world. Shit's fucked up, but as soon as they see a baby, everybody's just like, oh shit. And
Yeah.
they kind of all stop and let kind of, there's scenes where like that one, I think it's another long shot of them like going through the, like a war zone, not a war zone, but like, you know, people were gunfighting, and they're like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was a long shot
Yeah.
of him trying to escape and everything.
Oh yeah, he's
and,
going in the tunnels and like
yeah,
through the
going
walls and
apartments
stuff.
and shit.
That
and,
was
like,
so crazy.
and they eventually get to like, they're cornered, but like by the bad guys, but they see why they're running, and they're like, they didn't know that there was a baby, and
Yeah.
they kind of just let them go.
And I
And
mean,
like, oh fuck, this is because it's obviously important that a baby was born in this world.
what's
And
such
even the bad guys that are obviously just following orders, they're like said, "Oh fuck this,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll let you
it's-
go."
it was like one of those moments of recognition, where like and clarity, where
Yeah, and
because
that happens so much in the movie too. It's like, oh, this is
Yeah.
definitely important. Like, she was pregnant, of course, and then
Yeah.
they were like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Everyone went out of their way, even like the bad guys and shit, to help her, which was fascinating.
Yeah, it was. I mean, picture being in their shoes. Like they haven't seen a baby for
20
Decades
years, yeah.
in person,
Yeah.
and so to see one again for the first time, I mean, that's got to be miraculous. After in a world where something like that occurs, where like people suddenly can't give birth anymore, that's a really sad idea. So,
Yep.
and but yeah, great film, and
Mhm.
definitely a great science fiction film.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. My number 2 pick is an animated movie called. It's an animated French film called Fantastic Planet. And actually, if you want to talk animated science fiction films, I also really love The Iron Giant. That's one of my favorite science fiction films as well.
Yeah.
But Fantastic Planet is very interesting to me. It's kind of like a miniature. It's like these blue alien creatures, and human beings are like miniature. It's almost like they're like rodents to these aliens. And then this one particular alien starts to actually she decides to, well, actually you don't really know what the gender is. It's like they're all kind of androgynous aliens. And like there are males and females, but you don't really know what this one is. And so it like raises this rodent human, and it's interesting the direction it goes in. The music is fantastic, the visuals and the animation style. Because and this is a very unusual kind of animated movie too. Like it's not exactly illustrated. Like it's partially illustrated, but it's also partially like filmed, and it's incredible. I loved it. And the director, like he directed a couple other animated French films that are really hard to find. And those are worth checking out as well. But Fantastic Planet is, I think everybody pretty much agrees that that's the best. So
Never heard of it.
yeah, it's unusual, but it's very imaginative. The sound
Okay.
design, the
Yeah.
music, it's great.
I think the only reason I've heard of it is because of its on Criterion Collection.
Oh, I forgot it
man.
was. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
but
Nice.
I only.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally forgot about it.
Animated sci-fi Wall-E. Shout out.
Yeah, if this were a list of like what we think the greatest science fiction films are, Wall-E would probably be. Yeah, I mean, everybody knows what like the best science fiction films are, like Wall-E and Metropolis 2001, all that stuff. Everybody knows, but these are our favorites.
Yeah, right.
But Wall-E is unquestionably a masterpiece,
Yeah.
and one that I think has the potential to appeal to like anyone really, as long as they're able to sort of let themselves identify with an AI. I mean,
well, my number 2 is Back to the Future 2.
Ooh.
oh wow, yeah, okay,
Yeah. I just always loved it as a kid. That was like the first movie I saw with like future technology.
yeah.
So I always thought it was awesome seeing all that stuff.
Confession time.
Oh, yeah.
Never seen any of them.
Oh, okay, they're great.
I
They're
want to,
Yeah.
they're
but
really
it's-
great.
Something along the lines of, I also haven't seen 2001 Space Odyssey,
Yeah.
which I want to see, of course, but like it's that thing of is it overhyped in my mind at this point? I
Yeah.
don't
It
Wanna
might
know.
be.
I don't know if I
don't
want to
know.
watch it and get disappointed with
Well,
either of those.
I totally get it. 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's the kind of movie. Even I would have to be in a certain state of mind to watch it. I have to be in a much more meditative, much more focused type of mood. Back to the Future. I think Back to the Future is easier to engage with. I think you'd enjoy that. I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure I would. Yeah.
it has like the kind of 80s stuff that like. I mean, I can't relate to a lot of 80s kind of stuff, because I didn't grow up in the 80s, but I didn't really mind any of that. Like it's still like a really fun movie, And then the sequels are really good too. The second movie is great. I'm partial to the third one. the third one isn't really as much of a comedy as the first two are. The third one, they kind of go a totally different route. It's more serious. It's kind of more of a Western type thing.
Oh,
I
right.
don't know, because I think one can be forgiven for, like, if they decide to watch the Back to the Future films, one can be forgiven for not watching the third one. But personally, that's my favorite, just because that's the one I watched the most as a kid. Like, for some reason, the third one like, I found the most entertaining. I don't know why. I love the first one, but and for a while, and like my older siblings, they were a big fan of Ghostbusters 2 and weren't a big fan of Ghostbusters 1. But that's only because they grew up watching the second one more often than they did the first one. But I grew up with the first one, so that's why I like the first one more. So I don't know. Sometimes that happens, But I like the Back to the Future movies, and Back to the Future 2 is great. There was some clever things about it that were kind of ahead of its time, So.
Yeah, usually when I watch those movies, I usually try to watch all three.
Yeah.
No, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Which one is so? Was this a point in any of them where he is technically like his own ancestor, or is that just a Futurama joke?
It's sort of. I mean, 80s movies were kind of edgy at times. I mean, Big had some pretty troubling stuff in it too. But yeah, there is something that kind of happens in the first movie that, I mean, personally, like, I mean, it's a movie, so I don't care. But I could imagine some people kind of feeling uncomfortable a little bit. I mean,
but it's not like Pride is legitimately his great granddad.
Yeah, it's nothing. It's nothing gross. It's really more just a really bizarre misunderstanding type of situation. Yeah.
So he didn't do his grandma or anything.
I mean, just watch the movie. It's hard to explain.
All right. My number one. I talked about it recently. It's Coherence.
Mm-hmm.
As far as favorites go, for sure.
Wow.
I definitely think that it's one that is amazing and criminally underheard of and underrated. I mean, everyone that's seen it loved it, but like, it's didn't get any type of media attention or anything. I don't even know if it was in theaters, honestly.
I think it was. I think my dad saw it, actually, because he was watching a lot of weird art films at the time.
Yeah, it's definitely an art film, small indie.
Yeah.
Made like for $40,000 a weekend, but so good.
Yeah.
And it is sci-fi. It's like a sci-fi mystery kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like even better than like murder mysteries. Like repeat viewing is a pleasure.
Yeah.
Like you want to watch it again, not like for like, oh, this is a great movie, I want to watch it. There's like so many things you pick up just because of what's going on in it.
Yeah.
Because it is, I guess, spoiler-ish. It's like interdimensional workings.
Right.
Like that's why it's sci-fi. It has to do with interdimensional stuff.
Okay.
And there's just it's wild because I watched it once. I was like blown away by it. And then I forced, my friend Ben and Joe. We went to all of the high school. I made them watch it, and they're blown away. But I was even blown away times 2 because everything that, like, the mystery parts start making even more sense, and you just appreciate how well together they put the whole thing.
Yeah. Because
you have to watch to understand what I'm saying, and watch it another time. Because there's just so many, oh shit, they went through this, like the creator obviously did. Yeah. Because the actors, like I said in the previous, they were given not a script, but an outline of the scene. Like, okay, you're going to bring this thing up, talk to that actor about something, improv. Yeah. So like they were in the dark the whole time. They don't know what the fuck was going on. And it's brilliant. It is just pulled off so well. Yeah. It's just so good.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it soon because, and same with One Cut of the Dead. I'm gonna definitely watch both of those soon because I've heard nothing but good things about both of those. Yeah. But yeah, thanks for Coherence. Yeah. My number one pick is also a movie I've talked about, and I mean, it's probably gonna seem stupid, but I'm gonna choose it anyway. Honestly, Waterworld. Like, I fucking love that movie. And I know that like I know it's not really a cool movie to like. I know that a lot of people really hate it, but I really want more people. It's I'm sure it's like there are like there will always be people who criticize it, but I think that there are some people who, if they rewatched it and they just watched it with an open mind, they would get more out of it. Like, I really think that movie should be re-examined at some point, because it's really not that bad. Like, there are things about it, like I said, that don't quite work, but I just love that movie. I want people to love it as much as I do. But I don't know
if it'll have, because I still see people saying it's shit.
Yeah.
Even after I saw it like when I was a kid. Don't remember a damn thing.
Yeah, no, and I totally understand. But honestly, like I feel like there's some I see things in that movie that are special, and I do believe that there is an audience for this movie out there, you know.
Yeah.
The audience just has to find it, you know. They have to want to like it. They have to want to appreciate it. You know, it's a movie that you can only get into if you are truly interested in getting into it, you know. I don't know what else to say. Waterworld. That's my number one pick for my favorite science fiction film.
It's a hot take.
Before I move on, did you guys just glitch out? Did your video just glitch out?
I don't think so.
Mine glitched out for a second there.
Oh, did it?
I didn't notice.
Yeah, I didn't notice. So.
All right. Well.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. But yeah, my number one perfect segue is Star Wars: A New Hope.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that is, you know, I would have to say that's my favorite Star Wars movie, you know.
Yeah. I know a lot of people like Empire better, but I like A New Hope.
Yeah. I mean,
it started kind of the sci-fi craze. I mean, there's Star Trek before, but that was for nerds. And then sci-fi or Star Wars kind of popularized it more. Still pretty nerdy back then, but
well, I have a confession that I should probably make, because I do love the Star Wars movies, but I've always loved the Star Trek movies more, and the Star Trek show more. You know, but that's just me. You know,
I can see why. Everyone says it's more of a thinking man's sci-fi.
Yeah, I mean, I think. You see, it's hard for me to really know how to recommend Star Trek to people, because there's not really any perfect place to start. You know, it's the kind of thing where, like, if you haven't gotten into it by now, like, it's going to be hard to get into.
I've wanted to get into it. Cause they say, like, but you have to watch, like, the first series.
Yeah.
And it's
not
so
all of it,
old, and I'm just like,
yeah, not all of it's good. There's no real good way to start off with Star Trek, because if you want to get into the movies, you have to watch the motion picture, the first one first, which is, in my opinion, the worst Star Trek movie, and probably one of my least favorite films of all time. You know, I'd say it's worse than all the Star Wars movies. I'd say it's worse than a lot of science fiction films. I really do not like Star Trek: The Motion Picture, aka the first Star Trek movie. But yeah, but I do feel, though, you know, if a person manages to get into Star Trek, you know, really is a lot to enjoy about it. But still, Star Wars, you know, definitely a groundbreaker. You know, yeah, I love that film. So.
Well, Star Trek and Star Wars are now intertwined with Mr. JJ.
Yeah, which, you know, I can't complain about, because I actually don't mind what J.J. Abrams is doing with the new Star Trek. I know a lot of Star Trek fans find it irritating. I think it's great. You know, the one thing, because I grew up with Star Trek, you know, it's probably like, it might have been the first television show I ever watched as a kid. And the thing I've always loved about it was the way they talked, and the dialogue, and their banter, and the words they use. Like, I honestly didn't know what most of it meant for the longest time, but I loved hearing it and seeing it, you know? And so that's what I've always loved about Star Trek, you know? And I feel like they capture that in these new movies, you know? But yeah. So yeah, Star Wars. Excellent choice. And I like to consider A New Hope to be just Star Wars, because honestly, like all the sequels that came out after that, I haven't liked any of them as much as the first one. So yeah. And yeah, I don't know. Like, so what do you guys okay, so how do we discuss this new movie?
I mean, I'd say we'd have to discuss, it's the end of a saga of the entire all three trilogies, really. Like, right? That's what they're saying. There's no more Skywalker shit.
Right. So do we have to talk about all the Star Wars movies or try to summarize them?
Not really, I don't think, but like how this trilogy ties in, I guess, to the whole saga, I'd assume, right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, definitely mostly focus on the last one because that's the most important,
right?
I'd say, but like.
Okay. Well, okay.
Well, before we do that, just a quick. Have you heard? You've heard the Plinkett reviews of the prequels, right? Those got pretty famous, at least on the internet.
Yes, that's the only thing I've seen of theirs are those prequel reviews that, like you said, everybody's seen, and I've seen those.
And it's fascinating too because fucking. I forget, it was near, because they came out years after the prequels, and the Plinkett guy was jokingly saying, he was comparing them to the new Star Treks, and he's saying, let's get J.J. Abrams for these new Star Wars. And I watched the review, the Red Letter Media guys do their not the Plinkett review, but their review. I think it was a half in the bag of the new their takes on the new Star Wars. And Mike, like the guy who plays Mr. Plinkett, came out first and said, I just want to say this was not my fault. I did not encourage them. My video has nothing to do with JJ being the helm of these new ones, which I honestly don't believe. I think he had somebody saw that. I think JJ definitely knew of them, I'm sure. People saw, I honestly think he's part of the reason why they got JJ to do those.
Yeah, you might be right. I mean, everybody saw those prequel reviews. I mean, anyway, but yeah, I mean, I grew up with the original Star Wars movies. Yeah, I loved them as a kid. I've watched them about 1 billion times. A New Hope was the one I watched the most. And then I saw episode 1 for my birthday, and I loved that because I was a kid, and that was made kind of more for kids anyway. And I loved the 2 sequels to them as well when I saw them. Of course, I wasn't crazy about the episode 2. I thought that the Yoda fight scene was disappointing. To me, it looked like Christopher Lee was fighting a cricket. I just couldn't take it seriously.
I loved it when I was a kid. I thought because I was always, from being a fan of the original series, to just see a puppet who's supposed to be a dope ass Jedi master. I wanted to see him fight.
Yeah, and
we got it.
We did.
It wasn't the greatest, but it was satisfactory to me. Could have been better.
However, I guess. So I'm a huge, my favorite character out of all the Star Wars characters is Darth Vader. He's always been my favorite character. I just find his villainy to be really unique. I find, not unique. That's the wrong word. He's like the most evil person ever. His overall presence. He's not even in A New Hope all that much. When you actually rewatch it, he's not in that much of the movie, but his overall presence just. You can feel him. You can feel his evil throughout. And it's so fascinating to me. He's always been a fascinating character.
I mean, one thing the reason why I kind of, in the trilogy of the prequels, I'll put above these newest ones, because they were at least telling us story from point A to point B of how Vader became Vader.
Yeah.
They actually went with something. They showed how, they were trying to tell us how the, Jedi Order fell, when we got to know them in, A New Hope.
Yeah.
So even though it was fucking bloated and stupid for 90% of it, it actually was trying to tell a coherent story, which I cannot say was this happenstance with this.
Well, we'll definitely get to that because I do agree with you to a certain degree, but I should describe the kind of Star Wars fan I am. I'm really more of a casual Star Wars fan.
Yeah, me too.
When I said that I liked Star Trek more, really the reason I love Star Trek more is because I can get more involved in the emotions and the plot and the characters of that. Whereas for me, I'm really, when it comes to Star Wars, I'm really in it more for the action and the visuals and the effects and all that stuff. That's always been the part of these movies that has appealed to me the most. The plots, for me, it's like space soap opera.
Yeah.
And so, and I should say, rewatching the original trilogy, because I've rewatched it several times, and the more I rewatch it, honestly, those movies are not perfect in my opinion either. I think there's a lot of problems with them. There's a lot of plot holes. The logic doesn't make sense. The character arc for Han Solo, in my opinion, makes no sense. I mean, I could go on and on about my problems with the original trilogy.
I mean, they say that first one was saved on the editing room floor.
I believe it, you know. And I love the Star Wars movies, but I can't pretend that they aren't that they're perfect, you know. So that's the way I feel about Star Wars. So, but the thing that I was most interested in with these prequels was what they were going to do with Palpatine, because for me, they didn't really do much with Palpatine in the original trilogy, and so they kind of made him really mysterious. And I wanted to see, I wanted to know a little bit more about him. I wanted to know how deep his evil runs. And I saw the prequels, and I got to say that one of the things I was most disappointed with was what they did with Palpatine. In my opinion, he's just some guy who he wants to be this evil guy, but he's too lazy to do it, so he gets other people to do it for him. I can't think of a less interesting villain than that.
Yeah.
Palpatine, to me, is he's like down there with the Green Goblin in terms of just the worst villains ever. I hate Palpatine as a character, as a villain. He's just my least favorite kind of villain.
Well, I mean, then we have to also bring it back to this Skywalker, whatever.
Yeah.
This the end of it, because it's implied that sure he may have been looked like he was lazy, but apparently he was a puppet master, not less so than lazy.
Yeah, which
I mean, we probably should say spoilers.
Oh yeah, yeah. You could put that in the title of the video or the podcast. Spoilers for science fiction, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, that didn't really make any sense to me. But we'll get to that anyway. Yeah, so Palpatine, pretty boring villain in my opinion. So then you get to these new movies. I guess okay, so. All right, I'll just talk about kind of my impression of the first two, I suppose, really fast, just to kind of summarize. The Force Awakens, I saw it, and I enjoyed it for what it was, but it kind of felt like the same movie as A New Hope, only not as good. You know, personally, that's what it felt like to me. But
I mean, that's what they gave the original scriptwriter. Say, make A New Hope new.
Yeah, and you know, kudos to them. They did a good job making it new, and you know, they had I still liked the action. I still liked the effects. I still liked what was going on enough that I enjoyed it, you know, and I didn't really have any personal qualms with the movie, even though it felt really familiar.
I mean, I'll say it's my favorite of the three.
Yeah.
Just because it didn't suck ass completely. And it was, I mean, I'll get to my thoughts on the third one, but the third one wasn't bad. But, like, I mean, it was definitely a good starting point. Like, it was a good starting point. They should have worked off better.
Yeah, with Force Awakens not being bad, or
Force Awakens.
Yeah. Okay. And then The Last Jedi, which seems to be the most divisive one of all, and for good reason, because they pretty much take everything that they did in Force Awakens and then just casually just write it all off, destroy everything. Snoke, which actually I appreciated the fact that they killed off Snoke, because that was one of the things I didn't like about The Force Awakens was Snoke. His introduction, I'm like, great, now we're gonna have another boring Palpatine character.
Right.
Like, this is not what I'm interested in. I don't want to know this. I'm more interested in what's going on with Kylo Ren, you know, because he's arguably more evil than Darth Vader. I want to see what's going on with that more, you know, but they introduced him. It's like, damn. And then they kill him off in the sequel, and I was like, sweet. I guess somebody agreed with me.
Yeah.
So that's
like one of the questions. Like, it would have been kind of okay if they had a decent idea what to do with Snoke.
Yeah.
But since they didn't plan this trilogy out,
they're
just like, who is Snoke? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's a bad guy at the end. But you know, The Last Jedi, and it's probably because like a lot, you know, up until seeing it, everybody was telling me how bad it was without really spoiling it, and so I was expecting it to be worse than it was, which is probably why I enjoyed it. But again, like I wouldn't say that it was as good as any of the movies in the original trilogy. I like the action scenes. I like the lightsaber scenes. I liked, there wasn't really that much action in Last Jedi. It was kind of more just like relentless stuff happening, and none of the stuff really ends up making a difference anyway. But it's a lot of stuff happening.
I mean, that's how all of these new ones were really just
yes,
fucking pedal to, especially the last one, pedal to the metal.
Well, which brings us to The Rise of Skywalker. Now, do you want to share your thoughts first?
It was okay.
Yeah.
I definitely liked it a lot better than Last Jedi,
Yeah.
but it definitely had a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I guess what did you guys think of the Palpatine shit reveal? It was.
I didn't like that.
The one. I mean, that's really. If you want me to be totally honest, that's my biggest issue with the movie is the fact that they brought Palpatine back. They could have. I wouldn't have minded it if they had done whatever else they wanted to do with it, would have been fine with me. But bringing Palpatine back really was the one thing about this movie that irritated me, the most. I liked it, but I liked it pretty much for the same reason I like all the other Star Wars movies. I like the action. The action wasn't as good as it was in other movies, but I still enjoyed it. I like the sound design. And also, I'd have to say, out of all the movies in this new trilogy, that as far as music scores go, this one had my favorite score. I thought the music in this movie was great, and the sound design was great. On a technical level, I thought this movie was a lot of fun. I didn't dislike it. It's just, as far as plot goes, there's not really too much to say. I mean,
what I think about this one, and it has to do with Palpatine as well, is that they were working with what they were given from The Last Jedi.
Right.
Like, where the hell were they go from there?
You can't really go anywhere, yeah.
Like, if they set it up, and then The Last Jedi was like, who's Rey's parents? It doesn't matter. Who's Snoke? He's dead.
Yeah.
It's just, they just threw everything away in The Last Jedi and set them up with almost nothing.
Yeah.
So you're given this fucking project to make sense of this trilogy, which is not gonna happen anyway. So like, what can we do?
Yeah.
I mean, Palpatine.
It's the only thing left.
I feel like they should have done something from the extended universe.
Yeah, but So from what I understand, too, that's what I thought they should have done with the new movies. But from what I understand, was Disney cut out all the extended universe books and shit out of the canon.
It's no longer canon anymore.
So they could have still maybe adapted some and made them canon. I'm assuming if that's
And Disney, they only did that because they didn't want to haggle with the rights. Yeah. That's what it ultimately comes down to. They didn't want to spend money. They wanted to make money. So
I mean, they spent $4 billion on it, but
and they didn't want to spend any more than that. Ultimately, I guess is what it comes down to. I don't blame them.
So I don't mind the Palpatine shit that was shoehorned because I don't honestly know what they could have done any better.
Agreed.
There's
I think,
and then they kind of played it off decently well. So what I'm learned recently after watching and thinking back and seeing some reviews and shit is, I was unaware, and I don't know if it was made clear in this or the prequels, that Anakin was a Force baby from Palpatine.
Yeah.
That?
It seems to be what they're trying to.
That's what I've heard is canon now. Is that because Anakin was like a
virgin birth.
Yeah. So what I've heard was, or what's apparently canon, is that Palpatine actually made Anakin a Force baby.
Yeah.
And then, so technically that kind of makes Palpatine coming into this not so bad because he's been a puppet master kind of character.
Yeah.
And like the fact that, he has all those fucking things and bodies, and
I suppose,
I guess he's transferring. He's not even Palpatine, he's just the Sith.
Well, like
the dark side almost.
He's a ghost.
Yeah.
He's not even he died in Return of the Jedi. We saw him die. He gets blown up and he's on the Death Star. There's no way for him to survive that. So he's a ghost. I mean, let's just face it. That's what he is. And somehow he's a ghost who is able to, he seems to feel like he can take down the Jedi. And he even tries to kill them at one point, despite knowing that if you kill a Jedi, they only come back stronger.
Yeah.
It's like,
and the thing is, is he a ghost though? We never, they don't say that. But how the fuck did he survive? But
that's the only thing I can think of.
They say through some means, some might deem unsavory or whatever
Yeah.
the fuck he says.
Something
And
like
he's
that.
hooked up and shit, and like his fingertips are blown off. So
Yeah.
you kind of assume that it is the same one, but you also want, like, he's cloning himself,
Yeah.
obviously, with all those fucking buckets and those people in the stands. I don't know if they're clones or some type of
Yeah,
they were.
it
It
was like a cult leader. He was almost like a Colonel Kurtz, like Apocalypse Now type fella who's has an army of his own like cult followers, in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of epic. It's just kind of a shame that it's Palpatine.
And so what I thought funny is it was so technically, like, Ben is a descendant of Palpatine.
Yeah.
If you're going with which they are going with
I
that
guess-
Force Ghost shit. So technically,
I mean,
it was an incest kiss between Rey and another incest kiss between Rey.
yeah,
and
I mean
Ben.
they're tying the Rey or the family bloodlines really closely in this one with
Yeah.
Palpatine and Skywalker. Like, it's pretty strange.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'll The Last Jedi was trash, but I will say my favorite part of it was, what if Rey really was a nobody? I think that would be a better fucking avenue.
Agreed.
Like,
Agreed. Because
she just came to power somehow, because you assume Jedis don't necessarily have a hard bloodline like that. I mean, but like,
I think that would have been cool because, the first Star Wars trilogy, I mean, that was kind of like the hero's journey. Luke is the chosen one, and then what happens. But there does come a point where I kind of get tired of the whole chosen one concept. Like I love Harry Potter, but I didn't really need the whole chosen one concept. I feel like it would have been better if he wasn't special, if he was just a wizard and and there was nothing. Like, I get why they did that. It's just the prophecy aspect of it that I don't like. Like the foresight or clairvoyant, you're going to be somebody special and you're going to save the world type of thing.
well, in defense of that,
But
in defense of that one, because I love Harry Potter,
Yeah.
it was Voldemort's reason,
yeah,
because it could have been Neville.
yeah,
He chose Harry.
yeah. And it makes sense why he chose Harry. I wasn't bothered
Yeah.
by that. I just, yeah. But ultimately, it's not really a trope that I'm a big
Yeah,
fan of.
It's always annoying. But,
Yeah.
but I also say, like, now with this whole light of the Force baby, like, the whole Skywalker's thing, he wasn't really a chosen one if you're going with the bloodlines shit. He was just another one, another
Yeah.
Palpatine kind of.
I guess so. Yeah. Luke Skywalker's basically just excess baggage on this whole journey, according to Rise of Skywalker, which is not exactly the direction that I pictured Luke Skywalker winding up going in, considering that, I mean, he witnessed Obi-Wan Kenobi dying. He witnessed his death. He witnessed Darth Vader striking him down, and I mean, you talk about masterful. That was a beautiful moment in the original Star Wars movie, because that's the concept of the mentorship going wrong. Obi-Wan Kenobi thought that he could raise Anakin and to be this amazing Jedi, and he failed in the worst way he possibly could. So Luke Skywalker, like, that was a lesson that he should have learned from seeing that. But then somehow it's like he's trapped inside of this prophecy, basically. Like, somehow he ends up being responsible for Kylo Ren going berserk and killing innocent people. So it's a strange direction for the series to go in, but I guess it's true to the whole mythological idea of what the original trilogy is. So I give it props for that.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess just overall, I guess it ended the saga.
Yeah.
That's all. It ended the saga.
Yeah.
I can't say it ended it on a high note or anything great.
Yeah. It wasn't a high note. It wasn't a low note.
Yeah, the movie itself was serviceable.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Last Jedi shit or any prequel shit, but like,
Yeah.
what can you do? It ended it. I think they salvaged a shit wreck as best as they could.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's hard to really there's not much you can work with, considering that The Last Jedi. I get so who all right, and then the titles of these movies don't really make a whole lot of sense either. I gotta say, The Last Jedi.
No.
Who was The Last Jedi? Was it the kid at the end with the broom? Was that what it was trying to imply? Like,
don't know.
They never. Okay, so yeah, this movie isn't really about The Last Jedi. They kind of
No.
just bury it, move on.
Yeah.
What sounds cool? The
Yeah.
Last Jedi.
Yeah,
Because
and
there was still Rey even.
yeah, who I
Like,
guess
Luke died. I guess that would be what he's the Last Jedi, or Rey is the last. Or Rey
Rey
is the Last Jedi now that Luke's dead. But
Yeah.
like, there's more now. Like,
Now, what about the other characters? Like, I mean, it was cool seeing Chewbacca and Carrie Fisher and all them. You know, that was all nice.
yeah, I
But-
mean, Chewie's my favorite character,
Yeah,
just because he's a fucking badass.
yeah. Chewie's great.
Yeah.
And actually,
I like what they did. I kind of.
I liked it. I mean, I liked what they did with Chewie more than what they did with him in Last Jedi, which was literally nothing. He's like in one scene. That's
So what because also like in the trilogy, I didn't see him too much of like a big character, even though he was there. But like language barrier, kind of like, oh, he's kind of hard to put
Yeah.
human into it, even though he was sentiently human and
Yeah.
shit like that. But I just loved him because he was like a badass Wookiee.
Yeah.
And then but I will say in this, the way they did the fake out death of
I
Chewie,
hated that.
so bad. I'm like, he's not dead. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like I definitely saw that explode, but like, oh, he's not dead. Even as it was exploding, okay, where's
Yeah.
Chewie? He's gonna show up.
Yeah.
2 minutes later, he shows up.
I know. It
Or
was
not shows up, but oh yeah, there was another. Yeah, and it was so bad how they wrote it off too. It was like, oh yeah, there was another ship. He
yeah,
got off on that one.
He's right there.
Oh really?
That made-
okay.
That made me think of South Park when they spent a whole season because Kenny died, right?
Yeah.
And so then they spent a whole season without Kenny, and they're trying to replace him with Butters and Tweak and all that,
Yeah.
and that doesn't go over so well. And then the following season after that, Kenny just shows up and they're like, "Oh, where have you been?" He's like, "Oh, I was right over there." And then they just continue with the series as if nothing happened. You know,
Yeah.
kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Um,
I also since Chewie was my favorite, like I wouldn't have minded if he died. I was
I was
but-
expecting him to.
Yeah, I was like, because he's the last one of the basically besides the droids.
Mm.
But like I kind of wouldn't have mind. I would have hated if he blew up like that. That was
Yeah.
fucking stupid. But like, and I also don't understand like why Rey was I know she was freaking out, but like I don't see that they were all connected that closely. Like,
Yeah.
no, Chewie, I knew you for like a week.
Yeah, we didn't really see that emotional journey.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like they had almost no screen time together. If I thinking back on it, like,
Yeah, I'm wondering like how that even happened.
like I don't remember her interacting with Chewie. I think at all.
Yeah, I can forgive the fact that there wasn't a whole lot they could work with Carrie Fisher because she did pass away,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
that's
And there's
fine. I think they did well with her. in
yeah,
that. She
there's
was-
nothing they could have done, so they did what they could, and it didn't bother me.
And
um,
so
It wouldn't have bothered me even if she hadn't died. If they went in that direction, it wouldn't have bothered me either. But
So do you think another retcon of the Last Jedi
yeah,
was that her being a actual Jedi? Because you see her training and beating Luke with lightsabers and shit.
I guess so.
Because one of the biggest complaints about the Last Jedi was how the fuck did Leia do the Mary Poppins?
Oh, when she's flying through space.
Because it was always known that she's force sensitive, like really force sensitive, but that's some Jedi force shit.
Yeah. Well,
I'd assume.
The logic of Star Wars has never really made sense to me anyway.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
it's a reveal in old CGI shit that she was actually a good Jedi
yeah,
lightsaber wielding, beating Luke even.
yeah.
So
I guess I am kind of bummed out that this movie is pretty safe. It doesn't really take any
Yeah.
risks. None of the characters die except for the characters you expect to have die. Which spoiler, I guess. Kylo Ren and Palpatine, they both die, and then of course Carrie Fisher died, and then that's pretty much it. I mean, unless you count like all the nameless, wordless characters who get, and of course they had a chance to maybe even have some kind of leftover because they erased C-3PO's mind at one point, and it's like that could have been interesting, but then they get his mind back, so they
brought back
didn't
a couple months though.
yeah, and they didn't even want to take that risk with it, so
Right.
they didn't take any major risks with it, so it kind of made it feel sort of less personal, like it didn't
I
really
think
feel
they
like
were
a
scared to
vision.
take risks
Exactly,
after the Last
yeah.
Jedi.
I think ultimately that's the problem. So, and they didn't want to, because Last Jedi was the only risk they took with this movie was revealing that Rey was Palpatine's granddaughter. That's pretty much it. And that wasn't even. I mean, I don't know. Were either of you surprised by that? Or
No.
Neither. I mean, ultimately.
I was like, was I spoiled on this? But I wasn't. I was like, yeah, duh,
Yeah,
she
I
is.
know.
Like,
It seemed like the obvious
it
choice.
seems like I got spoiled on it, but no, I
No.
wasn't.
No.
Like, no surprise at all. I was like, oh, of course she is.
Yeah. But I still.
I was more surprised that Palpatine got something, got some in.
Yeah. No, I
He
didn't.
got it on.
It was-
Clearly, I mean,
It was like good for him. I mean,
I guess being the ruler of the galaxies,
I mean, I'm surprised it's
probably
such
isn't
a.
that hard to get some strange.
I'm surprised that such a lazy loser like that can even somehow manage to start a family.
With a
But
face like his.
yeah, he's a lady killer. That's for darn sure.
And I liked Finn as a kid. He didn't do anything at all in
Yeah.
any of the movies, but I liked him. I
Yeah,
liked that he had a love interest in every movie. He was a player.
it was like a different love interest. Although the way, and I wasn't annoyed by Rose like everybody else was. The way,
I was.
yeah, and what can I
Not
say?
her fault, but the writing was.
Yeah, and I mean, what can I say? I totally understand. I think but the whole like kissing in the middle of battle thing, like, I mean, I've read like military literature that has had stuff like that happen in it. I mean, I think, like, to me, if they were able to do that kind of thing in something like Jurassic World and get away with it without anybody complaining, then I guess they can get away with it in Star Wars as well. To me, I mean, I've never been that crazy about the idea of people kissing in the middle of battle where everybody's dying around them. That's not an ideal time to be kissing someone. But at the same time, it's like, well, if you're thankful to be alive and you just, or it's like an out of body experience or something like that, then whatever. So it didn't bother me that much.
The kiss didn't bother me, but what he was doing and everything did. Like,
Yeah.
Driving into the beam.
Which was a bad idea.
Would have just blown him up and done nothing. And
Yeah.
then her, somehow, like, she must have fucking put some nos on that shit because she was way far behind.
Yeah.
And she just zooms in and smashes him right out of it.
Yeah.
So that's what I didn't like. I thought it was fucking stupid.
And I guess ultimately my overall opinion is that these new movies are fine. They're fun. The action is cool, all that stuff. But the prequels had a personal vision behind it. It felt like it came from somebody's imagination. It felt like a story being told.
Yep.
Whereas these movies they don't really feel man-made. They feel like they were made by like a film studio, and I don't
Doesn't
mind.
feel like a trilogy, honestly. It just feels
Yeah.
like 3 movies that
They're all kind of
took place,
disconnected.
yeah.
And I love them to death because they're Star Wars. Nobody can tell me that I can't love these movies, because I love all the Star Wars movies just for the sheer design and the concept, the mythological idea of, faith and Jedi powers in space and all this, and the weird love stories with like you said, the close family connections, and also like, freaking Anakin and what's her name, Padme, their relationship is weird as well. But to me, like I said, it's space soap opera, so I can forgive it for having weird relationships and weird characters and all that stuff. It's Star Wars, and this is a Star Wars movie, in my opinion.
Yep. I mean, I'll say with this final trilogy, yeah, it was good, but like also somewhat disappointing since it's the last. I mean, I wouldn't be as disappointed if they were gonna try and maybe plan out another trilogy to actually end it. But I kind of don't want them to do that either. Just leave it be now.
Yeah.
But since it's the end of this Skywalker saga or whatever, it's kind of I wish they just planned it out like they did with their Marvel shit.
Yeah.
Like they bought it for $4 billion. Why are you just gonna start throwing it into production right then and there?
Yeah.
You should have planned it out. I'm wondering what they're thinking even.
Yeah.
If they know, oh yeah, we're gonna do a trilogy. Let's start filming tomorrow. It's like, why?
Like, well,
At
hold
least
on.
plan it out shortly. Like,
Yeah.
they obviously didn't do that.
Well, that's another thing is that the other movies, in the original films, the original trilogy, those movies, they didn't come out one after the other. They weren't like put together by.
Yeah,
and
it
boom,
wasn't
boom,
a trilogy that was planned.
Yeah,
It was just
they
Star Wars.
they came out when they came out. Like they took their time making them, and yeah, in the prequels, I think that there was a through line with the sequels, or with the prequels, so they didn't really have a problem trying to work out the story. This clearly didn't have a through line, and if it did, Carrie Fisher passed away, so they of course weren't able to really. I mean, there's no way to succeed at accomplishing a through line story with a trilogy
Yeah.
like this. So they did the best they could. It's going to please the people that it pleases. People, Star Wars fans are the worst. They talk crap about everything, so I don't even give a crap what they say. And there's going to be,
More.
plot. Yeah, I
There's
mean,
gonna be more.
people are going to scrutinize this movie to death and then reevaluate it in the future. Some kids in this world are growing up with these, and they're probably enjoying it just fine. So, well, who am I to take that away from them? I liked it. I didn't mind it. I don't mind any of the movies. If I were to choose a least favorite, it would probably be Attack of the Clones. Not because it's a bad movie, but because just the final battle was it was a little bit of a letdown, whereas the other Star Wars movies didn't really let me down in the same way. Also, one final note, I really did like the final shot of this movie a lot with Rey and the reference to,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was
That was
cool.
nice.
Yeah. I appreciated it. I like that they gave us something, so.
Yeah.
Any more thoughts?
Yeah. Out covers it.
Yeah, I think so. The worst
Yeah.
Star Wars movie, in my opinion, if it even counts as a movie, is to me still the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yeah.
That's
Haven't seen it, but that's what everyone
Just
says.
never
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
Some people will say technically, some people will try to spin it as being canon because it has the original cast in it. Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, and Harrison Ford. All three of them appear in it and act in it. But trust me, it's very obvious they don't want to be there. They don't give any effort. It's miserable. It's like basically they just got drunk and filmed a TV movie, and they probably hated every minute of doing it. George Lucas pretends it doesn't exist, and that's what everybody else should do as well.
Yeah.
Some people will talk about the fact that it was the first time Boba Fett appears, but I don't really give a crap about Boba Fett, or at least not enough to recommend the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yep.
So,
Oh, one last thing about Chewie. What did you guys think of him getting his medal finally?
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I was like, way to go, Chewie. You didn't die, and you got a medal.
Right? Finally.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly groaned at it. I was like, of course you guys did that, but fine. I mean, good thing you did.
Yeah.
Little late, but
Yeah. The more I think about it, the more I really do love Chewie as a character,
yeah, he's great.
because I didn't think he was going to make it through this new trilogy. Honestly,
I
thought,
didn't either.
yeah, I was so sure he was going to die. Because think about it, he's nothing without Han Solo. I mean, and I don't mean he's nothing as a character. It's just
That he's been living with him for his whole, well, not his whole life,
Yeah.
but
he's his partner. He's
for
his
60
main.
years it was something like that.
Yeah, he's his reason for being. And so when Han
Yeah.
Solo died, and then Luke died, and then Leia died. I mean, he's got nobody, but he manages to still grow,
His new friends.
be
He
his
got
own
new
thing. Yeah,
friends.
and that's about all I have to say.
Yep.
Either of you watching The Mandalorian?
Not yet. I
Not
think
yet.
I might try to though.
Alright,
I've
we'll
heard it's
save
good.
that conversation for later then.
Have you seen it all? I've heard it ended
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
I
it's
haven't-
pretty good.
gotta see that. I heard it's good.
I haven't watched it yet. I think I'm gonna just. I want to take a break from Star Wars
Yeah.
just because this
Wait.
new trilogy kind of wiped me out, and I'm just.
Yeah. Wait till the hype dies down a little.
I think so. I have been listening to the soundtrack. The soundtrack is outstanding.
Ooh.
Great soundtrack. I don't know if it's by John Williams. It might have been, but yeah, I'm probably not gonna watch another Disney movie for a while either, just because I don't know.
God damn it.
I like their movies and all, but I'm tired of giving them money. And I think I can take a break from Star Wars. I can take a break from Disney. I'm not gonna jump on Disney Plus yet. I'm just gonna kind of sit back and relax for a while.
Do they have a free trial of Disney Plus, or do you have to just straight up get it?
I think there's a free trial. We have it for free because Verizon was doing it a full year for free.
I
Cool.
have Verizon cell phone. I don't know if that.
Yeah, I'd look into that because you can get a year for free.
Ooh, okay.
I don't have
Yeah, sure.
Verizon, so
Yeah.
Nice.
cool. So, any last words or?
Nah, I'm all set, I think.
All right. Well, if you like Star Wars, I don't know if you'll like this or not, but I did. So
I think you'll like it if you like Star Wars. It's not shit.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I didn't not like it. That's
Yeah.
what I would say overall.
yep.
All right. Well, have a good night, everybody.
Yeah.
See you later, folks.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe and all that.
Yeah. Smash that like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And may the force be with you.
Yes. Yes.